Tanya is an associate director in talent acquisition and oversees hiring for the surveying and mapping group at Atwell. In addition, she oversees the Atwell Survey Scholarship Program, is developing an internal young surveyors program, and is the chair of the Young Professional Employee Resource Group at Atwell. She's a graduate of University of Tennessee, where she received a bachelor's in communication studies with coursework in interest of organizational communications. Was letting somebody in and then I lost the bio. And she spent her professional recruiting career specializing in the AEC industry and has spent the last couple of years dedicated to the wonderful world of land surveying. Over the years, she has networked, interviewed, and connected with hundreds of surveyors across the country, and she has served as a resource for countless surveying students by providing education and ways to sharpen up a resume, boost their social media presence, prepare for interviews, and develop a strategic approach to the job market, which is why we have her on tonight. So I appreciate your time and all your efforts of helping grow our lovely survey profession that needs lots and lots more bodies. So I will turn it over to you, and then we can kind of do some Q&A at the end and have a good conversation about this. So I appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. And thanks, Trent, for the invitation and the warm introduction. Again, my name is Tanya Hopper. And basically, I talk to surveyors every single day about their careers and what they're looking for and why perhaps they're not happy in their current roles. And I think that this has given me some unique insight that I'm excited to share with you all today. I just have to figure out how to work PowerPoint again. So today we're going to talk about how to identify the best organizations to work for, what to look for, how to make yourself discoverable to potential employers, right? Not limiting yourself to the jobs that you apply to, but how to get your name out there and your resume out there. Some tips for resumes, interviewing, networking, and LinkedIn. Leveraging and developing soft skills for leadership advancement, and how to maximize your lifetime earning potential. Sorry, folks, I keep losing my mouse here. All right. So while you're looking for, best organizations to work for, I do think that size of a company plays a pretty big piece of the puzzle here. You've got, small businesses, medium and large size companies. Your small businesses, they might be more, they might be owned by an individual or a family. They might have that family feel. A lot of times you're exposed to a variety of different tasks, which can be really exciting. You get to have a small, loyal customer base, typically in local markets. You do have a couple downsides here where you may not have as much professional development or the type of career pathing that you might see in some larger companies. But still, nonetheless, you've got tons of pros and cons. Medium-sized businesses, as we're looking for these engineering or survey companies, a lot of times they're still privately held with some exceptions, but there's some more long-term planning, some more diversification here on not only geographical markets, but the type of markets that you serve. You have more standard operating processes and more ability to have professional development. Professional development might be limited to key employees as top performers or certain roles, but typically it's still going to be available for a medium-sized business. In large businesses, a lot of times that's where you'll see that shift happen to public investor-held equity firms. Proceed with caution here. In my experience, those equity-held firms that culture can shift, right, from revenue-driven type of culture as opposed to that people-first culture, right? That might be where you go in and start feeling a little bit more like a number, depending on the type of ownership that you have. But large businesses can also have a lot of pros as well. You've got, multiple career development paths and programs. You get to support diverse markets, which could be huge in the world of surveying, because if you're not diversifying and then a recession hits, you're going to be limited on the type of work that you can do. You'll have a wider range of funding sources that can impact your salary, that can impact your professional development, and that can impact your team as well. So just something to think about. I'm not advocating for any of these, just saying that it's definitely something to pay attention to as you put yourself out of the market. Some other things to look at is revenue. Revenue is a big piece of it as well, because you could have a 1,000-person firm making $100 million versus $300 million, and that number could pay a big difference in the income that you're bringing in, your bonuses. When you go to hire people, how competitive you can be with their salaries and compensation. It can impact the type of technology that the company proceeds with, and many other things. So revenue is something to definitely pay attention to as well. Turnover rate, that really should be number one. It is something I highly encourage you to ask every single company that you interview with, what their turnover rate looks like. I think the industry average, it hovers around 14%. You want to stay at that or under it. You definitely don't want to land with a company with a 20 to 30% turnover rate, because I think it speaks volumes. There's a reason people are leaving. Career pathing and room to grow. If you're 100% qualified for the job you're currently in, and there's no room to grow, you're really robbing yourself of some opportunities to learn and grow as a professional. So I'd ask about the career pathing, what that typically looks like. If you're in this role and you want to get to this role, what skills do you need to develop to get to that next step? And is that company going to help you get there? Another piece of the puzzle is the culture, not only of the company, but the local team. The company, you can read values online, you can ask the hiring manager, you can ask the recruiter. A lot of times you'll get all the positive stuff. I would encourage you to find out what the personality is, the local office that you'd be working at, because that small team, as opposed to the whole company, that small team is the team that you're going to be working with day in and day out. And if you've got a Debbie Downer or a negative Nancy on the team, sometimes that can impact your day-to-day experience working for a company. So culture can be everything. Your direct leader plays a very big piece of that too. The type of manager and leader that you have, right? Are they calling on Saturday night and Sundays to get some information for you that could wait? Are they abrupt? Are they an empathetic leader? What does their current team think of them? These are all things to think about, because it could impact your mood, it can impact your day-to-day experience at work, and it can impact your family when you bring that mood home. I encourage you to look at the culture of the company as well. Mentorship. Some companies are going to offer this right off the bat, assign you to a mentor. Sometimes there's a mentorship program. Sometimes you can join a mentoring Mondays, but mentorship within your company is really important. You need somebody to go to, and the size of the company can impact this as well, right? Do they have folks that are available? Do they have licensed surveyors on staff? Or are you the only one? Are you the most tenured one? All questions to ask. Glassdoor and employee reviews are one way to find out, but using your network is going to be the easiest and the most accurate way to find out information about companies. Surveyors are very connected, as you know, and I can't tell you how many times I've submitted a candidate and the hiring manager knows all of their previous bosses, right? And they go out and they ask for an opinion, and that opinion can make or break you. So networking is a big opportunity within survey, especially it being such a tight-knit group. As far as values and mission and current projects, do the current projects excite you? Do the values align with your values? Does the mission of the company support where you want to be? current projects, I'd say, is a big important piece, because if you don't love construction staking, and that's going to be 80% of the job, let's figure that out ahead of time, right? If you look on LinkedIn, you can see if you can filter out the company that you're targeting, and then you can filter out by location. You can find out who's currently leading that team at that company, and you can look at the tenure, and you can look at the team that works for them, and you can look at their tenure. And I think that can speak volumes as well, especially if it's a office that's been around for several years, right? If it's a revolving door and you're seeing a lot of turnover and new people coming into this role and staying a year or a year and a half and then leaving, it can definitely paint the picture of what things are like at that organization. Another thing I want to talk to you about is about making yourself discoverable to potential employers. As somebody that is searching for surveyors all day, every day, I am a big fan of this slide. There are a lot of surveyors that don't have a LinkedIn presence, and that's okay. But if you do, there are things that you can do to stand out, right? Beyond the basic profile, and a couple of tips as well. One, if you update your profile, it will move you to the top of a recruiter search. If you haven't updated your profile in the past 5 or 6 years or logged on to LinkedIn, you're probably not going to be contacted. You're going to be on page 137. So updating your profile frequently can make you appear in more searches. If you have a really fancy title that no other company uses, consider putting in a generic title for LinkedIn if you're using it for the purposes of a job search. If your position is equivalent to a project manager or a survey leader, you may want to go with the industry standard on title just when you're using LinkedIn. And that's so you can appear in more searches as well, right? If you're listed as a geomatics enthusiast, right, that may not be a title that's frequently searched for. So something to keep in mind. Location, I would always gravitate towards adding the closest metropolitan area when possible. If you live in a small town in your state, we may not use that location as a recruiter to come find you. We may be searching a large geographic area, and that small town may not be a part of that. So, consider using a different location to appear in more searches as well. And one thing that I see all of the time is surveyors that don't really fill out their specialties or really much about their current positions. And I will say, to prevent yourself from getting spammed with too many messages or maybe even not enough messages, maybe put your specialty in there, right? Are you, your current employer, are you doing big boundaries and topos and as-built, or are you an oil and gas surveyor, or are you specializing again in construction staking? Those things can be very helpful, and it can actually align you well with a role that somebody may be looking for. Maybe a perfect opportunity that's been looking for somebody with your skill set, yet nobody's able to find you because your profile may not be filled out to its full potential. If you're on the licensure track, I always encourage survey students to add their anticipated graduation date. If they plan to take the FS, say you're planning to take it August 2023, add that in there. It does no harm. A lot of times people start to search when they are obtaining licensure around that time, just to fill out the market and their potential, what they could be earning potentially. So I would always gravitate towards putting in your dates for your exams and when you anticipate becoming a licensed surveyor. I think that could certainly make you more appealing to employers if you are on the track to be licensed in the next two years, right? That can add more interest to your profile. If you're open to relocating, there is an option on LinkedIn where you can add that. If you're looking at a specific location, you can put in that specific location. If you're open to moving across the country, I can tell you that you will have a robust amount of interest in your profile. There are lots of parts of the country where it's slim pickings, if you will, and your value as a surveyor will be increased significantly. A couple of spotlights that are available on our side of LinkedIn are, of course, open to work. We can filter out candidates that are open to work. We can filter out if you've been active on LinkedIn. So if you're checking out job boards, it might say this person may be open to new opportunities. It can mean different things, right? You could be doing market research, but it does put you on a filter that lets me know that you're at least looking at job boards, and that may make me excited to reach out to you. If you're following a company, recruiters can filter out that information. It shows that you have interest and you followed us and you know of this company, and those are typically the top picks that we'll reach out to. And same thing if you have company connections. If you're connected with 5 or 6 individuals from my company, I'm going to look at that as a sign of somebody that I'm definitely going to reach out to. Right? You're connected, you follow our company, you are engaging with some of our employees. The likelihood of response might be higher. Which brings me to my next one: most likely to respond. If you are on LinkedIn and you get, 5 lovely recruiter messages that I'm sure everyone loves and enjoys to receive, you don't answer them, you can a lot of times get filtered out of new opportunities because you're no longer somebody that's most likely to respond. I do encourage professionals to respond, no thank you, maybe in 6 months, or please don't message me again, I would never work for you. Any response will do, but it will allow you to remain in that filter of people that are most likely to respond, which is used pretty frequently. Before I move to resume tips, any questions on those?
Anyone want to chime in? Anybody can unmute themselves and go back through that. I guess what I'd say, how many?
I've got
Yeah,
question about from the employer standpoint. I'm glad that I didn't invite my team onto this call to ask them, like, to give them all of these tips on how to go find somewhere else to work. So I'm a little bit confused here. How can we make this relatable for a business owner in this industry?
I think it was on the very first slide, right? Like, which where you talk about creating a company cultures and making yourself where people want to come work for you, right? That's how
Sure.
we can spin it backwards to being relatable. But
here's the thing: is all the LinkedIn has been how to pitch yourself on LinkedIn. What about maybe like how to pitch the company on LinkedIn, or how to partner up with recruiting firms, because it is expensive. I have spent a lot of money on that, and I want to know how to better run an awesome surveying business that I believe has an awesome culture, that does amazing work, that we hit all sides of the spectrum, construction, staking, large boundary, whatever. But it's hard to keep and retain good people. And that's why I wanted to be on this call, is how can the business owner do better and attract those folks?
So I guess there's 2 ways, right? One, One would be reverse engineer this presentation.
Yeah.
And two, we have done, usually at the beginning of every year, I have multiple business related topics that all kind of dig into some of the stuff that you were looking for. So if you want to shoot me your email in the chat, I can send you kind of the links to all of those back archived ones. But I think the biggest one would be, first off, would be, almost reverse engineer Tanya's presentation here. We got a couple other ones that want to chime in too, but
Yeah, great. And I'd back that up saying, it's about creating a space where people want to be, and to ask these interview questions, right? Do you prefer a small company? Do you like the big company feel, and finding that person that's going to be a match for what you have to offer at that time. I'd be happy to talk offline as well to answer any questions, but it's about marketing yourself to your target market. And I think that could look a little bit different for each level of employee that you're looking to hire, whether that's field or office, because they're going to be in a different stage of life looking for different things.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. George?
Well, I think it's important to realize that we've all worked with fellow employees and employers that either are happy or unhappy. And if you're not happy at the job you're working at, you're not going to do a good job. You're not going to take care of your employer as well as you would if you were happy. So the key is for the employer, like you said, to find the right employee that fits their culture and is being assigned work and working on projects that they enjoy working on and are interested in. And a lot of times that just doesn't happen. And especially in surveying, it seems like you mentioned earlier, the turnover can be crazy. And it's nuts. And you look on people's resumes when they apply for a job and they've had a job for 6 months at this company and 9 months at this company and maybe 12 months at another company. And we had a name for those at the company I worked at for 25 years. We called them jumpers. And they would change jobs for 25 cents an hour in pay. I mean, it was ridiculous. And you look at a resume like that, you're going, why would I want this person here? The chances of them staying are probably not very good. Okay, now that's enough said for me.
Oh, you're absolutely right though. And I have a section around job hopping, if you will, or jumping. I think we're meeting this age of, these newer generations have that instantaneous internet, and they want instantaneous promotions and instantaneous raises and results. And I think it all comes down to communicating and providing very clear insight on, hey, this is your next step. This is what you need to do to get here, to get that next increase, and make those steps as small as possible. And this is a little bit off topic, but even as simple as breaking a raise into 2 parts, 6 months, dividing that same amount of money you'd give away, but twice in a year. There are certain things that you can do to make job hopping less prominent at your company, but I think that might be another conversation.
I think Thomas, go for it.
Hey, I've got a couple things. I'm not sure how many people in the audience are looking for jobs, but one tip that I'll give is read the job ad and do the research on the company that you're applying to and tailor your cover letter to resume. Answer those questions that are asked. If someone's seeking, experience with a certain type of equipment or a certain type of projects, read that in the ad or check that on the company's website. That's probably the best way to get a fit for at least the work that's going to be done and what the skill levels are. From the manager owner side, I look at ads even when I'm not looking to hire people. We went about 2 years not being able to find people. So I was looking all the time every week. Now that I've filled some roles, I still look once a month to see what everybody else is offering out there to make sure I'm providing the resources and culture and benefits and pay to keep up with what people are doing in my region. So reading the other ads is a good way as an owner to keep up with what's going on. And I'll comment on George's point too. If somebody's going to jump ship for 25 cents an hour, well, then we probably should have paid them that 25 cents an hour to keep them. That's kind of my attitude.
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds like you're very in tune.
Yeah, those are great points. Great job.
Good.
I think we're caught up for now.
Yeah. So LinkedIn's one way to make yourself discoverable. Obviously more insight to that would be attend every industry event, obviously, that you can. I think, the fact that you guys are on this call or guys and gals are on this call is indicative of that. Just get out there when you can. There are only very small, limited ways to network in this industry. So put yourself out there when you can. Trade shows, seminars, these events provide opportunities to meet other professionals in the industry and learn about the latest trends in survey. And then social media, right? Outside of LinkedIn, there's all kinds of groups, Facebook groups on social media platforms that are a great way to connect with others in the surveying industry. Webinars such as this one, obviously, and volunteering for industry related events as well, through campuses and other networks. Okay, resume tips. Fun fact, it takes about 6 seconds for an employer to scan a resume. So all the more importance to go above the fold. Above the fold is an old marketing term to describe the front fold of a newspaper, right? And that's basically saying you want all the juicy information on your resume in that first third. You want the degree and relevant industry information. You want the major, minor, the anticipated graduation date. If you're seeking a certain type of position that you're not currently in, it's a very good idea to add that to your resume. If you're a project surveyor seeking more project management responsibilities, then put that out there, right? Industry specific tools and softwares, Trimble, MicroStation, Civil 3D, those are all really helpful to have on your resume for somebody that's actually searching for that information. What we're looking for in that 6 seconds, one, are you qualified through degree or licensure? Two, does your current role reflect and qualify you for the role that I'm currently hiring for? It's completely irrelevant. I might go down one job, but not much further, right? If all of your surveying relative information is on the back of the resume, or if it takes a long time to find, it might get missed through a quick scan. And another thing to mention to George's point that we look for is, how long is the tenure of the companies that you've been employed with, right? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Is it have you been there 25 years, right? That also can play a big part in, like, they're used to one thing, one way of doing things, one process. So we do look at those items, and that is a pretty quick way to get eliminated, is through frequent job changes. Of course, if you're short on surveying experience, and this goes to the younger ones, right? You want to include a variety of things that you've done. If you've held a leadership position on a rowing team, or you've, vice president of student council, and you've volunteered for March of Dimes, and you've done an internship, and you've, done some part-time work for, customer service, it's still helpful, right? It's certainly nice to highlight those qualities, because you get skills from each and every experience that you have. You can also highlight soft skills on your work, volunteering, and project experience, and it saves valuable real estate on your resume versus making an entire section of team player and adaptable, right? So instead of making a section of that, you can put that in your experience, like led a team of rowers through the season. You can weave that into your experience versus, again, taking up that precious real estate. Encourage you to think like an employer. Have your resume out, check it out for 10 seconds, do a quick scan with fresh eyes, have someone else look at it, and make sure that resume is relevant to the job that you're actually applying to. You want employers to clearly see the connection and you and what they're trying to fill. And again, that's a pretty quick snapshot. If they like you, you'll get more than 6 seconds. If they don't find any relevance, moving on pretty quick. Although your resume isn't a list of everything you've ever done, it is important to put under each position the types of surveying that you have experience with. And I will tell you all too often that not many people do this. And if you've done the, renewable energy types of surveying, or you've done construction staking, put it under each position. It gives employers an idea. Okay, well, they have at least 5 years of construction experience. I think they'll be qualified for this role. Without that, right, it's hard to say what type of surveyor you are.
Tanya,
And it could.
Sorry, I was going to say there's one in the chat where he's a union surveyor and wants to stay union. So he's asking, is there a filter either maybe on LinkedIn or somewhere where he can highlight, I'm a union surveyor, want to stay a union surveyor. So what's thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's not a filter on LinkedIn, but just putting the keyword, and I'd add it to your bio, union surveyor, you could be filtered out by keywords. So if I search the keyword union server, you'll be sure to pop up there. The more times it's in your resume, right? You have it in your bio, you have it under your current role, and then you have it in your title. It'll help you appear in more searches. You don't necessarily need the filter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things in here real quick too. Military
Sure.
service is good to note. And then we've talked about a couple of them already. Joining the state survey society, your state associations for obviously the best networking. Sean went to his first state society and realized that there's a lack of junior surveyors, which if you go to any a state association conference, you will see that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very true.
Yep, it's interesting right now, but okay.
Yeah.
We're caught up there.
The military, yeah, the military is always great to add on a resume. Not even just for survey or anything. I think a lot of people certainly seek that out. There's a lot of skills and responsibilities that come from the military that will help you and lift you up through any profession.
Yep.
All right, so moving on. LinkedIn tips. We went through this a little bit already, but I'm going to move on here. I would say, to connect. One thing with LinkedIn I missed earlier, connect with employees from the companies that you're targeting. Take this information, create a list of maybe 3 to 5 target companies. These are your dream companies to work for. I won't work for anyone else, right? You kind of get that list down, you do your research, and you find out exactly what you want. There's not going to be too many in your market that line up with exactly what you want to do. Connect with those employees, reach out to the recruiters, reach out to the area manager, follow up on LinkedIn or email. The worst thing that can happen is you have somebody in your network now that, you see their post, they see yours, you have a bit of connection. You can always reach out for opportunities. So I would just say connect. The more so this industry is connected, the more people can help each other. With interviewing, I know there are a lot of tips out here. I think that it's really important to show the company that you've done your research. You know a little bit about the type of projects we do. I start every single interview the same. Have you heard about our company, or are we brand new to you? And that question lets me know that they're very interested, they're somewhat interested, or not interested in all. That question doesn't exist as a pop quiz to gain information on everything that you retained. It's to grasp your interest in working for a company, right? Similar to dating. You know, you want somebody that wants to date you, not just have somebody and date anyone. It's the same thing with employment. And I think you demonstrate that you want this job and not any job when you're doing your research and learning a little bit more about the projects that they have. You want to review the qualifications on the job description and make sure that you are ready to answer any of those hard requirements that you don't possess. I always say that, you know, you never want to be completely qualified for a job. If you're 100% qualified for a job, you don't have anything left to learn. You're already ready for that next step. You're setting yourself up for failure. So, you know, hopefully there are some job requirements that you don't meet. You know, you want to hit 70 to 80% of the job requirements, but be ready to talk on that. And be prepared with technical questions about the type of equipment, type of software, and, you know, relevant regulations, the types of survey you do. Make sure you brush up on that before you're put on the spot, because I know a lot of people freeze up a little bit when they don't have something prepared. And you can always showcase your communication skills. Talk about how you've resolved conflict, talk about how you've navigated difficult situations at your previous employers. I think, you know, interviewing is a chance for you to tell them why you're qualified for the role. So certainly study that job description to your best ability, and ask those questions to the hiring manager. What are you really looking for in this role? What does your ideal candidate look like? And they'll tell you. They'll tell you where your shortcomings are, and then, you know, you can navigate from there. Having a really hard time with this mouse today. All right. What hiring managers look for: is it a good culture fit? Do they have a good attitude? Do they want to be here? For me, I look a little bit for gratitude. I think, you know, employees that possess a little gratitude, like I'm grateful to work in this profession. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have a job, and not the type of attitude that's always looking for what's next, what don't I have, and focusing on the negative, because I think you'll have more longevity out of those types of employees. Do they have a desire to grow? Right? A lot of times your first interviewer might be qualifying you for the job that you're interviewing for, but you interview with your boss's boss, they might be interviewing you for that next role down the road. What do they possess? Do they have any natural leadership abilities? Do they, you know, are they able to navigate through this tough communication? Have they been promoted in previous roles? Right? If you have somebody that you're or if you've worked somewhere for 4, 5, 6 years and you haven't changed positions, or you haven't leveled up at all, I think that says a little something, right? So make sure you're pursuing promotional opportunities. And then, have they worked on similar projects? So you may really want to get into you know, commercial land development or renewable energy, but if you don't have experience with it, speak on behalf of how passionate you are about it. Not, I'm looking for something new, but I want to do this, and here's why. And to combat that, if you are doing a certain type of survey and you want to get into a different type of surveyor, see what your current company can offer you in terms of experience. Maybe there's certain projects they can pursue, or maybe there's certain projects they can shift them things around to give you a little bit of exposure to it. Even the littlest amount of exposure can help in terms of experience. And then, of course, the software programs and demonstrating a strong interest, as I said before. All right. As far as leveraging and developing soft skills for leadership, advancement. These are going to be important in many different fields. Survey is oftentimes looked at as a technical field, and sometimes soft skills can get overlooked. So I'd say with effective communication, it's a soft skill that will help you advance your career in many, many ways. It helps, cultivate your communication skills by actively listening, expressing your ideas clearly, adapting your communication style to different audiences. I can't tell you how many people don't get promoted because they lack the basic effective communication to lead a team or to lead client management. So if there's one thing to work on, communication, and then, building relationships, leadership, you don't need a formal title to be a leader. You can be a leader by taking initiative, solving problems, collaborating with others, and looking for opportunities to lead projects or take on additional responsibilities that can demonstrate your potential. Building relationships. I mean, building strong relationships with colleagues and clients and industry contacts can help advance you in so many different ways. Your network is so powerful, and you can cultivate those relationships just by being friendly, being supportive, reliable, collaborative. Your survey network that you have now and the network that you'll continue to grow can open you up to so many professional opportunities. So it's really important to nourish that and grow that network through those relationships. And then, emotional intelligence, the ability to manage and understand your own emotions and empathize with others is huge. Developing emotional intelligence can help you build those meaningful relationships, resolve conflict, navigate challenges, and adaptability. Adaptability is increasingly more and more important in the world of surveys. Technologies change, companies change, they change ownership, they get acquired, new leaders come in, new teams, project shifts. You may be taking on new responsibilities. Look for those challenges, look for those opportunities, and be flexible in your approach to work, because it can only help you. Being flexible and adaptable will show your leadership team that you're ready for taking on whatever comes next. This one's my favorite, maximizing your lifetime earning potential. We talked a little bit about job hopping. Job hopping is the topic of discussion more and more frequently in my profession. Job hopping switching jobs frequently, let me phrase it that way. Switching jobs frequently can impact your lifetime earning potential. And that can depend on various factors like the job market and the reason for switching jobs. So on one hand, switching jobs frequently can allow you to increase your salary quickly. It can help you gain new skills and experiences that can put you in a better position for higher paying jobs. And on the other hand, it can be seen very negatively by employers who may perceive you as unstable or disloyal. So the answer to this is definitely a twofold one, right? You have to approach this, and the timing has to be right, and opportunity has to align, but it's not something that you should rely on every time that you need a raise. It can certainly, again, lead to a temporary increase in salary, but it definitely limits your ability to build long-term relationships with your employers and establish that strong professional reputation. It can also limit your chances of getting a higher paid job later on in more senior positions later in your career. I've seen this impact so many people. They've doubled their salary very, very quickly. But then they're not marketable anymore. They've job hopped, they've got their salary where they want it, and maybe there's some layoffs, maybe the recession happens, and maybe it's not a fit for them, and they've had 3 back-to-back short-term tenures, and now nobody wants to hire them. So it's certainly something that you need to approach with caution. You know, when you switch jobs, you may get, 15 to 20% increase, whereas when you're waiting for your annual increase, that could be 3 to 6%. So it's a substantial difference, and you want to make sure to just use that when it's appropriate only. I always say it's better to be learning or earning, but better if it's both, right? So going back to, you don't want to be 100% qualified for a job. You still want room to learn. You still want room to grow. And if you are at the very top of that job description, you should be being paid very well, because you've mastered your role at 100%. I would always, again, steer to go for the roles that you're slightly unqualified for. Aim high. If you are looking to get licensed or get certified, I think it's a really great idea to get that early on in your career. Your salary, it compounds over time, right? Those yearly increases compound, and it increases your lifetime earning potential in many, many ways. You become more valuable to employers, but your actual increase is every single year. You're getting, 5 or 6% on top of that base income. And when you get certified, as you're bringing new certifications to your company or new licensure, it's a great time to negotiate salary. Look at the market, look what you're paying. If you don't know what your company's paying, and they're a nationwide company, you can look at markets like Washington or Colorado and see the job postings on what they're paying that salary. You can also develop specialized in demand skills for your market. If your market is in Florida, for instance, and hydro surveying is very in demand, look at ways to develop that skill. And as you do that early on, again, your base tends to increase over time, as opposed to taking on signing bonuses or other incentives. Oops. I have a new screen set up this week. Here we go. Keeping up with technology and industry trends, just staying up to date on the latest surveying technology trends can make you more valuable to your employers. Networking, building those strong relationships, industry contacts, potential clients, all of these things will help you increase your long-term impact. If you're going back to your increase in your base salary, again, as a compounding effect over time. So as your future salary increases, promotions and bonuses, they're often based on your base salary. So as you increase this base early on in your career, you set yourself up for higher earnings and financial stability over the long term. So over time, the aggregate loss on incremental gains can be huge. So as you're negotiating a job offer or a salary increase, it's generally easier to negotiate that base salary than a higher bonus, and it's smarter on your end too. So base salary is often seen as more important factor in compensation packages, and is therefore a little bit more negotiable. But companies do tend to gravitate towards a quick signing bonus because it's an easier way to make an impact. So while bonuses are a nice addition to your compensation package, it's just generally better to focus on increasing that base for stability, long-term impact, and negotiation opportunities as well. So as you're pursuing your next opportunity, unfortunately, a lot of employers will base that on what you previously made. Any questions, comments, concerns, hesitations?
There was a couple of good things in the chat, but I can catch up with those if anybody wants to chime in or log in. There was a good one in here a minute ago. It was ones that are offering signing bonuses. Where did that go? He said if a company's offering signing bonuses, reach out to, you know, a current employee there or something, and then have them hand deliver, you know, your resume to the hiring people for signing bonuses potential there. Thomas chimed in again earlier. Growth potential from both sides is key in a thin market. Communication, collaboration, and attitude go a long way. George, a good candidate needs to want to grow and advance their career and their current abilities and the current job requirement. So there's a couple of good things in there. But,
yeah, I'd agree with all that. And going back to the referrals, it's, you know, we process a lot of referrals. Referrals stay longer than anybody that you find going through a staffing agency. They tend to have a little bit more loyalty, and a lot of times it's a better culture fit. You know, you're going into a company where you've got a little bit less hesitation, you know, a little bit more on what to expect. So we have the most success hiring people that our employees already know.
Yeah. One of the other things I threw in here, we've been talking about salaries a little bit tonight, and Connie, for those that follow along on Facebook and some of the LinkedIn stuff, she's put together a Survey Monkey out of the California Land Surveyors Association, and then she's been sharing it all over. So if you guys want to jump on her salary Survey Monkey, that'd be awesome. She's up to about 1,1200 responses as of this morning. So we're trying to get a good demographic out of that. If you guys remember in the old POB days, they would do the annual survey salary as well. So grabbed a few questions out of that to help populate this Survey Monkey a little bit better. But so try to jump on there. Thomas, go for it.
Hey, I had a question for Tanya. As a survey manager, I actually took a look at ATWELL's webpage, and I'm wondering what the rationale on ATWELL's webpage to not list job openings is. Under the career opportunities, they give you a contact us. And I'm wondering if two things, what the reason for that is, and is that a trend in the industry that we're starting to see more and more, or is that kind of a one-off thing? I'm not familiar with ATWELL. It looks like the closest office you have to Seattle is in Portland, so I'm not very familiar with the company.
Yeah, well, we have an office in Kirkland, actually. We do have our positions listed online. I think you just might be in the wrong section. So I'll have to.
Yeah, when I click the careers opportunities, it just says contact us. Because that's what I was looking for, I wanted to see kind of what you offered. Because like I said, I like to learn as much about what everybody else is offering out there myself.
Yeah, unless something's down.
If that's a trend too, I kind of want to be aware of that. If the trend is to kind of make connections first, to let people contact you too, that's something that's important to me as a manager. You know, if that's the way the industry's going, I want to keep up with that as well.
You know, they loaded on my side.
Yeah, they're on there.
Yeah, they loaded on my side. I'll throw it in the chat, Thomas.
Thanks very much.
Happy to connect offline too. I think connection and networking are 100% more effective in this industry than job postings or anything to do with a careers page. Building those relationships, surveyors tend to go with people that they trust, which is why referrals are so successful. You know, we can invest quite a bit in advertising and job boards. And while we do find a little bit of success, again, those referral programs and referrals have been the bread and butter of especially survey and mapping.
Nice. George?
Tanya, I gotta say, I'm very impressed with your presentation and your knowledge of this whole process. It's amazing to me. You're certainly an asset to your company for sure, and an asset to anyone that has the chance to take any of your advice. I will say the discussion about looking online for what the industry is paying, back in the 70s and 80s, that was considered price fixing. Truly, it was, and we were prevented from doing that, along with putting the name of the company on the door of the truck.
That's wild.
That was
Times have changed, George.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
good
thank you
thing.
for the, I appreciate the compliment. And you know, with salaries, I think with online platforms, everything's becoming more and more visible. We're, you know, looking at ways to be more transparent and posting each and every salary online. And I think, you know, we'll be a leader in the industry doing so, but that's what these newer generations want, right? We're leading survey groups a lot of times with the more seasoned generations, but we're trying to bring in that younger crowd. We have to put ourselves in the mindset, and they want all the information up front. They can usually find it online. They're not calling, they're not putting in extra effort. And if they can't find the information that they're looking for, they're moving on to the next.
Well, we absolutely need to get the younger people into the profession, and we need to start probably, I'm saying maybe in grade school and for sure middle school, getting them interested in the math and science involved and the cool equipment that we get to run. Some of us know how to run it anyway. I don't anymore. I know what to do with the information. Anyway, great job. I really appreciate it. Got a lot out of this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that as well. We're, like I had mentioned, we're developing a young surveyor program. So if you are passionate about that, I mean, we'd love to partner on some projects. I think we'll, you know, eventually start to put some events together in certain markets. And I think it could be pretty powerful, or at least that's my hope.
I will say one more thing. I had a reputation in the firm that I was employed with for 25 years as being fearless. And the reason they said I was fearless is it didn't matter what the project was. I wasn't afraid to take it on because I knew enough people that I knew I could go ask somebody that knew how to do it and get the help I needed if I didn't know. And that's what we should be doing as professionals anyway.
Right, building a community.
Yep.
Wasn't afraid to tell my clients that I didn't know either, but that never caused a problem. I don't know how to solve this problem. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm not afraid to go find out.
And you know, that's another trait, you know, I found with surveyors, they love to teach. And it can be a beautiful thing. If you're unsure about something, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Nope.
You can always find somebody that's willing to show you.
Exactly.
No such thing as a dumb question.
Tanya, we'll have to talk more about the Young Surveyors Network stuff you're creating. Are you getting involved with any of the national YSN stuff out of NSPS? Yeah. Okay.
We're in early stages, so we've got a big plan to proceed in a couple of different ways, and NSPS is definitely on the radar.
Okay. My daughter's secretary of National Young Surveyors Network, so that's why I wanted to make sure that those conversations were there. So
oh, I'd love to connect with her.
Yep. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll chat off. Trent Squared 2 Williams.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. Tanya actually works with one of my favorite surveyors that I worked with, Eric, out in Michigan. Just worked on the side with him. He was one of the smartest guys I know. So I have a great respect for ATWELL and what you're doing. I love this topic. The question I have is, you know, I work for a company that we all kind of do our own recruiting as offices or project managers, and certainly as an overall company, we have some ads out there and the different sites and recruiters. But I'm curious more what your role is and how you do that as a company recruiter to see if there's something we can implement internally here for us. What are you doing to search out? Is it just kind of going through all those things, or is there anything else you do for the company as a whole to recruit?
To find people, a lot of it is networking. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn for one, LinkedIn, Indeed, and then I attend every conference that I'm able to, just getting a steady presence. I'm in Florida, so it's FSMS. I try to go every single year and try to meet. My goal is to, I don't want an unfamiliar face for next year. And I think that's important, and people will start to remember you, and you become somebody that's familiar. And I think that that's the most important thing. But as far as job advertising, I don't know that there's a secret potion to it. Not a lot of surveyors are going to job boards. Not a lot of surveyors are going to any career fairs. So I do try to get in front of student classrooms, professors, as much as I possibly can. I think with this industry, it's important to build a bench. So we're all looking for that 5 or 10 year candidate that's got the experience, but we need to continue to focus on getting people into the programs so that we all have a pool of candidates to pull from. So to answer your question, nothing special outside of LinkedIn, Indeed, and then a lot of networking.
And maybe have it back down into the company. Are you meeting with project managers or office managers?
Mm-hmm.
And how do those discussions look internally for you to know what candidates you need?
I think, working with a hiring manager is one of my favorite pieces, and getting to know how they tick and who they work best with, and knowing the projects, because that's a big selling point, right? So if I can learn about the hiring manager, I can not only figure out what their needs are, but also I can sell that to a candidate and the personality traits that they possess. Because as I mentioned in one of the slides, your direct leader is one of the most impactful things about your experience. So, providing a little bit of insight and connecting those dots is where it's at for me.
Hey, thank you.
So
Thanks for the presentation. This has been great.
yeah,
That's awesome.
thank you.
I think Summer jumped off already. I was gonna see if Summer wanted to chime in, but I put us on an email already together, Tanya. That was
Great.
Summer who was asking earlier. So I got some stuff there. Anybody, Jen says, never seen surveying at a job fair, which is probably very true.
Fair.
Exactly. There's a bunch of good stuff in the chat, which I always save that stuff down too. So anybody have any more specific questions they want to ask? Yeah, tons of great thank yous and stuff in the chat for you as well there, Tanya. So
well, thank you everyone for joining and for having me.
you.
This was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you.